Hey there, it's CJ Willie, and I'm cracking a pack. Today is pack number 4 in the Magic the Gathering Hour of Devastation Bundle Bingo. Check out my preview video for the explanation on how this Bundle Bingo will work. I've added that link to the preview video in the description below. So we are down to pack number 4. We'll still have all the other packs. As a reminder, as I crack the pack, I'm going to be opening it and commenting from a very casual Magic the Gathering player standpoint. Most of the commons will be what they were in Draft and Sealed, and uncommon pretty much the same. If they made it into mod or Pioneer, Modern, maybe even Standard, I'll talk about them, and then spend some time on the Rare and Mythic Rare. I've got my bingo card here. Hopefully today is the day that we hit bingo. Let's zoom in just a little bit. We can get bingo with Tormented Hailfire, Supreme Will, or with any of the uncommon desert lands. So hopefully we can do it today. All right, let's get to cracking this pack. Okay, first card in the pack we have is Frontline Devastator for 4 mana, 3 in a red. It's a Zombie Minotaur Warrior, 3/3. It has Afflict 2. You can pay 1 in a red, and Frontline Devastator gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So here's another card that was pretty good with Afflict. Either you're taking 2, or you didn't block and you took 4 or 5. With a 3/3 for 4, maybe a little undercosted, but Afflict made the difference, and this card was a good card. It was kind of the top end of the red-white aggressive strategy, or even a little bit of the black-red, green-red. Next we have Unquenchable Thirst, 1 in a blue. It's an enchantment aura. Enchant creature when Unquenchable Thirst enters the battlefield. If you control a desert or there is a desert card in your graveyard, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. So this was a little bit cheaper costed, if you will, Claustrophobia, Water Knot. You had to have a desert to get it to tap. If not, you had to take an attack, maybe lose a creature on a block, or take some damage before you could, put Unquenchable Thirst on a creature. It had some utility. It did slow down the aggressive strategies a little bit, and it was a card that I did like to play in Limited and Sealed, or Sealed and Draft. Solitaire Camel, 3 mana, 2 and a white. It's a camel, 3/2. Solitaire Camel has lifelink as long as you control a desert or there's a desert card in your graveyard. So 2 cards in a row in the cycle. We got the blue and then the white one. Solitaire Camel in the red-white aggressive strategy did some work. I mean, it was a 3/2 for 3 with lifelink because you usually had a desert. I played with it a little bit, had some success. It was a good hoser against the aggressive deck as well, because if you played your Solitaire Camel, you were able to gain some life to keep yourself alive until you could play things later game. Oasis Ritualist, 3 and a green. It's a Naga Druid. It's a 2/4. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, or you can tap it, exert Oasis Ritualist, add 2 mana of any one color to your mana pool. I liked Oasis Ritualist a lot. I played it a ton in Limited and Limited and Draft. I keep saying Limited and Sealed. I mean, Limited and Sealed, not Limited and Draft. Okay, I meant Draft and Sealed. Forget Limited, because Draft and Sealed are unlimited. Anyway, it was a card that I even played in Standard as well. I had a blue-green beater deck that I would play Oasis Ritualist in, and usually by turn 5, when I could tap and exert, I was getting an extra mana, and I'd done a little bit more mana ramping, so it helped me out a ton. I didn't play it very much after the Standard block, but it was good in the Limited format, and it was good in Standard, at least from a casual standpoint. Strategic Planning, 1 in a blue. Sorcery, look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 of them into your hand and the rest in your graveyard. So initially I thought this was a crappy card because it was a slower version of Anticipate, but with a God Pharaoh Gifts deck running around, this card did a ton of work. So not only was it okay-ish, I thought, in the Limited format, it was great in Standard, and it was one of the commons that got played quite a bit because you could dump creatures that had Eternalize or Ubalm or any sort of creature into your graveyard with some sort of nifty power or enter the battlefield ability because of God Pharaoh's Gift. Next we have Survivor's Encampment. It's a desert So you can tap it to add a colorless to your mana pool, or you can tap it, tap an untapped creature you control, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So this was a little bit better fixing than Painted Bluffs that was in Amonkhet. At least you could activate it with an untapped creature. So this in the Seal format was a little bit better, and in Draft as well, because you could have other creatures out of the battlefield. If you needed another color of mana, you could tap creature, tap this, and you get your color of mana. So much better than Painted Bluffs, but still not a great card. Wall of Forgotten Pharaohs, 2 generic, it's an artifact creature wall, it's a 0/4, has Defender. You can tap Wall of Forgotten Pharaohs to deal 1 damage to target player. Activate this ability only if you control a desert or there is a desert card in your graveyard. So we have 3 cards out of the cycle that care about deserts. I did play this in Draft. I tried to do it in more of a blue-black, I think it was Stalling Out deck, where I could ping for some damage. As a 0/4, it could block. It did shut down some of the red-white aggressive strategies until they went wide, or until they had ways that they could get past your blockers. I did like it in Limited. I did draft it, I did play it in Sealed, and it would do incremental damage and get me closer to the win. So it was a good card in that side of kind of a sense. Defiant Chimera, not much to talk about here. 1 in a red, it's a 2/2. If you really needed it in your aggressive strategy, you'd play it. If not, it was kind of an easily cut card because it didn't have much that it would do. Scrunge Our Souls, we've covered this as well previously. It's 5 mana, 4 and a black. It's a 3/4 horror, and it has lifelink. If you could make it to the late game, if you could stall around enough and get this down on turn 5, it would help you out because it had lifelink. Problem was, if it was your only creature on board, you were usually dead because the aggressive strategies would go wide. They'd figure out a way to not make it block. So, although I did draft it, I didn't get to play it fairly often because either I was dead or I was playing a deck that was aggressive and, winning the game. Our first uncommon is Razaketh Right. So this is one of the kind of the, if you will, bomb uncommons in the set. It's 5 mana, 3 and 2 black. It's a sorcery. Search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. You can cycle it for a single black mana. So this is a card that definitely did not play in Limited. Search cards are a little bit too slow in either Draft or Sealed. Maybe Sealed it's okay, but Draft no. Where this card is making a lot of its hay is cycling for a single black. And so it does get played in, some modern Pioneer type decks, so it does have some value there. As a bomb uncommon, I guess if you will, for a while it was up around the $1 range. Now it's kind of settled back down to like the 40-cent range, but it was a sought after uncommon. Next we have a Shaundra's Defeat for a single red. It's an instant. Shaundra's Defeat deals 5 damage to target red creature or red planeswalker. If that permanent is a Shaundra planeswalker, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So there's an uncommon cycle of each of the featured Gatewatch planeswalkers, white, blue, red, black, and green. This is Shaundra's, so it deals 5 damage to target red creature or red planeswalker, and if it's a Shaundra, you can discard a card and draw a card, so Rummage. I didn't really play these too much in Limited, simply because there weren't that many planeswalkers going around that you cared about this. I know some of these may have picked up some steam with War of the Spark, where you'd had a ton of planeswalkers featured, but it wasn't a card that I really played and have too much desire to play. Our last uncommon is Vizier of the True. 4 mana, 3 and a white. It's a human cleric. It's a 3/2. You may exert Vizier of the True as it attacks. Whenever you exert a creature, tap target creature and opponent controls. So there's also an uncommon uncommon cycle that if you exerted a creature, something happens. So the creature itself, usually to have text, it exerts and then does X, Y, and Z. This one exerts, and if any other creatures you exert while you have this on the battlefield, you get an extra ability. The white one, this Vizier of the True, is not one that I particularly cared for. Usually in your aggressive strategies, you didn't want to exert your creatures because that meant you lost an attacker for a turn. And this particular one didn't quite fit into that strategy, so it was more of a long haul strategy. So it was a card that I didn't necessarily play that much, and when I did, I think I played it a couple of times, and I just didn't like the effect. Okay, can we find a rare or mythic rare to mark off and get bingo? Is it going to happen this time on pack number 4? Nope. So we have Grind to Dust. Grind is 1 and a black. It's a sorcery. You put a -1/-1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Then you can cast Aftermath a dust with 3 mana, or 4 mana, sorry, 3 and a white. It's a sorcery, so you can cast it from your graveyard with this Aftermath ability. Exile any number of target creatures that have -1/-1 counters on them. So this is, in a way, kind of a slower kill spell, exile spell, if you will. It's going to take you 6 mana to do this. I found that it was pretty useful, though, the front half of it, because if you're playing an aggressive strategy, a lot of times their toughness was 1. So on turn 2 or 3 or 4, you could wait and pop off a couple of smaller creatures, or you could play it on a couple of creatures, dwarf them, and then on, you know, turn 4, exile them all. I also found that with a lot of -1/-1 counters going around, you may get lucky and Christmas land them and exile a ton of creatures. This card, though, didn't have as much success as I would have liked in, you know, the limited format. I did try it in a standard deck at the time, and I've also kind of tried it in Pioneer. It just doesn't have the nice effect that I'd want, especially with both cards being sorcery. Okay, and then we did get an uncommon. We got a Sifter Worm, 7 mana, 5 and 2 green. It's a worm, it has trample. When Sifter Worm enters the battlefield, scry 3, then reveal the top card of your library. You gain life equal to that card's converted mana cost. I didn't play this that much in the limited format. I think I played it one time, and I was able to get it out with an exerted Oasis Ritualist, so the green common we saw earlier. And, you know, as a 7/7 trample, it does some work. And its other ability, you can scry 3 and then gain life, you know, equal to the card that you reveal, the converted mana cost. So it would gain you some life that you needed. I did play this in a blue-green beater deck, where I would play big fatties, and this was the top of my curve. I'd run a couple of these, and usually when I'd play it, I could get it out way early. A lot of times I was getting out on maybe turn 4 or 5 because I was ramping, and then I would scry top 3. Usually I'd find another copy of this or another big beefy, reveal it, gain 7 life, and be way ahead. So, you know, Sifter Worm was a really good card, I thought, and I even used it, like I said, in a standard deck. Oh, a full art Forest, and then our really cool Exerted Eternal, -1/-1 and brick counters card. So for me, it's going to be easy. The card that I think are the best card out of this pack, from just my opinion and experience playing, is Sifter Worm. Like I said, I played it in sealed, limited a couple of times. I keep getting limited, sealed, and draft all mixed up. What I really mean is limited, and there are 2 formats, sealed and draft. I played it and I had some success. I could usually pair it with the Oasis Ritualist or other way to ramp things out, get it out early. And like I said, I played it in a standard deck at the time. It was blue-green, you know, had Channeler Initiates in it that would ramp me, along with Bounty of the Luxa, which was a rare enchantment that would net me an extra card or extra mana every other turn. Sifter Worm did a lot of work. It won me a lot of games. I get it out way early. You got a 7/7 trample on the board. The enter the battlefield ability is just great because you're scrying 3 cards. You're finding your next bomb that you're going to play. Although you are giving some information to your opponent that, hey, I'm going to be drawing this next turn. You were gaining a lot of life, and there were times that I would chain a Sifter Worm into another Sifter Worm, or I would chain it into Angler Drake that I was playing at that time. So it was a pretty cool card. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did like it, please subscribe and share. Take some time to tell me in the comment section what was your favorite or best card out of the pack. Until next time, when I'm back to crack the next pack in the Magic the Hour of Devastation Bundle Bingo.